Well, thank you. Session 2 here, incentive compensation. And being a former agent back in the day, this is very, very important to your agents, okay? Nothing hurts worse than having a clawback. Nothing hurts worse than not being paid correctly. Nothing hurts worse than not being paid on time. And if you're dealing with brokers, I can guarantee you, you will not be on the top of the pile if you're not paying correctly. So my friend Rahul Ari of SAP Commissions is here today, and he's going to introduce the panel, and we're going to have a nice discussion.
Rahul Iyer, General Manager for SPM, portfolio of products at SAP. Been in this space for about 2 decades, and I have an amazing panel with me today. So I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Raju.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Raju Shivana from Equitable. We've been in business for 150 plus years. I think most of you know Equitable. Our main mission is to help our clients secure their financial well-being, to pursue their long and fulfilling lives. And we have over 4,000 Equitable financial professionals helping 1 million individuals and households secure their financial well-being. And I've been with the company for 20 plus years.
Wow.
And manage compensation team. Thank you.
So, Jan
Walton. I am with Regions Bank. I'm in the Total Rewards umbrella and manage all of our incentive administration for the enterprise.
And Melanie.
And Melanie Siebold, Regions Bank as well. I work with Jan in managing the actual implementation of the system and onboarding new groups across the business into the system and managing it the day-to-day process.
Got it. So, Jan, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit more about Regions Bank.
Okay. So Regions is headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama. We are a $150 billion bank, which makes us about the 22nd largest in the country. Mm-hmm. We have 20,000 employees. We offer a full range of services from retail to commercial to mortgage, run the gamut there.
So you run SAP Commissions.
Correct.
For more roles than typically people think about when it comes to, it's typically salespeople or agents and brokers.
Correct.
But you run SAP Commissions for your entire organization. So can you walk us through what that journey looked like? Why did you make the decision that you did?
Sure. So we were a very decentralized shop when it comes to how we administer incentives. So we had an overarching governance structure, but we ran it decentralized, meaning in every business, in the corporate bank, in the wealth space, in mortgage, the incentives were administered within the business on disparate systems. Some systems homegrown, some maybe that they had purchased, and so we wanted to make a move towards centralization. And so when we wanted to make that move towards centralization, we wanted a single platform for the enterprise. And we wanted that platform for the enterprise, then it had to be something that was flexible. Because when you think about the wide gamut of incentive plans between, your corporate space where you have really discretionary plans, you think about retail where you're going to have more a widget-based plan, wealth, you have a formulaic pay plan. So it really, and then mortgage is all commissions based. So we had to have a system that was incredibly flexible so that it could just run the gamut of the whole enterprise. So that's why we made the decision to have that platform.
And Raju, moving on to you, Equitable, very different business model, right? So your space is chalk and cheese compared to what Jan was talking about. So why did you take the decision of actually going down the SAP Commissions route?
So we did an RFP, right? We looked at various vendors, and we've been on Calda's solution for a long time. Mm-hmm. And along with that, recently we went through a journey moving to SAP Cloud. So it's the SPM suite of applications along with agent life management, which helped position us taking advantage of the end-to-end solution.
So you run both agent lifecycle management and agent. So are you also using onboarding, the capabilities of integration with third parties like Nipper and PDB and all that stuff, or it's in the work in progress?
Currently, we are not fully utilizing ALM capabilities. We have positioned ourselves to take advantage of that in future. We are mainly using APM or ALM today for creation and maintenance of life wholesale complex payment hierarchies and reporting relations. And we have onboarding data coming from our 3 other onboarding systems into ALM, into commissions. So we are that positioned as like in future, if you were to bring in that onboarding, LNA, and other integrations with third parties, so we are positioned well now.
Got it. Got it. So I'm going to switch to you, Melanie, now. HR, right? People usually don't think about commissions and incentives in HR. So what's your team's role in the overall structure of how you manage your incentive programs?
So Jan and I actually sit within HR under the Total Rewards umbrella, as she mentioned, and HR oversaw the purchase of Calidus at the time, which then was SAP Commissions. And we now, as Jan explained, we're all very decentralized, and now it all runs through incentive administration, which lives in Total Rewards for regions.
And so, do you own the business process? Do you own the business process right from onboarding the individual, right all the way to the payroll, or is that process decentralized within the organization?
No, so each business owns their own incentive plan, obviously, and we participate in kind of a governance structure in terms of building out an incentive plan. How does that work? Our role in that is to have the expertise in the systems across the bank and the system of SAP Commissions to help kind of guide them. We'd like to do this. Well, you have no measurable way to do that. So things like that. What's achievable, what's not. We understand the business need, and then it's our job to actually make that come to life within the SAP Commission system. And we do run that piece. So we get their plan, we talk to them about what is the purpose and the needs of the reporting in terms of the hierarchy, who gets what, and all those different type of things, but that is on us to actually deliver those things.
I'm going to throw a curveball.
Okay.
So how long does it usually take you to maybe change a plan or execute against a new plan component or a KPI that comes into play?
Yep, so it would be a different question before and after we came onto the system.
Yeah.
So the system allows us to be quite reactive to the business needs. And that's something when we were on homegrown systems and it was very coded and laborious to make any kind of change. Now we can make a change, and generally, depending on what it is, obviously there's caveats, but there's times where they want to change something, add something to a report, that we could have it done in a week or two. And if you're on a monthly reporting cycle of a scorecard or something like that, it would not be out of the question for us to just say, okay, we'll have it on next month's report. Whereas previously that would not have been an option.
Got it. So Jan, we all went through this small thing called COVID-19, the pandemic. During that period, every customer of ours has experienced some kind of, disruption.
Sure.
So what was the disruption that, your organization felt, especially as it deals with, people who are selling, and the whole art of selling actually changed with, Zoom meetings.
Sure.
So how did you guys combat that, and how did the product actually help you kind of get over the hump, so to speak?
Gosh, I've got several examples I could speak to. First of all, obviously being in the financial services industry, we are highly regulated. Any pay approval that we do, and we have plans, we pay monthly, we pay quarterly, semi-annual, and annually. And so all those pay approvals, we have to have all these approvals, right? And so before SAP Commissions, that would be a pay approval form, a hard copy that you would get wet signatures on. But with SAP Commissions, we use workflow very heavily, as you know. And so we have an automated workflow. So once we get that pay approval ready, those incentives ready to go, we simply start that pay approval process, and then automatically routes, approves, done. And so in the pandemic, there was no worry, right? Because we just use our automated pay approval, everything is done. Another example would be while we pay, millions of dollars every month, we also pay hundreds of millions of dollars in commissions in our annual payout. And I would have never told you before, so we had just finished a payout before we all went home in March of 2020. So when we're thinking about then the following March, I would have, number one, thought we would all be back in the office, but also I would have told you that I didn't think we could have done it 100% remotely, right? Because it is a very collaborative process, but we did. We did that payout of a few $100 million absolutely remotely. We also, when we went home in March of 2020, we were in the process, and Melanie's team, of onboarding our mortgage division. We never thought we would complete and have to finish that onboarding. We were going live in April. We never would have thought we would have had to do that remotely. And it was absolutely seamless in the highest volume of mortgage loans in our history, right? Because we know what interest rates were doing. Absolutely seamless. It was flawless.
Wow, okay. I need to record this one for posterity. Next time you call me and say, something's not working. Yeah. So, Roger, to you, Jan just mentioned about regulation. You guys have a different variety of regulation where it goes down to literally a state level, which is very unique to the global regulation around insurance. So we started talking about ALM and you started talking about hierarchies. Can you double click on that and help us understand what that tool is doing for you in terms of that hierarchy management?
Sure. So prior to building the workflows, building complex hierarchies would take like someone days, weeks. So from there, with these automated workflows, now our users can do it in like 3-4 clicks. Especially when you're dealing with 100,000 agents and firms population, with where we have vertical hierarchy and horizontal hierarchy associated with the contracted firm. If there's a GA, BGA change within the organization, they move or introduce new GA or any level within the organization during those firms. If they have a huge brokers list, like 10,000, 20,000 brokers, earlier it used to, you had to do one at a time, right? So with automated workflows now, users can provide list of all the brokers or the firms that they want to change, insert, replace, or different functionality depending on that within few clicks. Now they can run as many workflows they can. One of the added advantage going to the SAP cloud is earlier we could only process one workflow a day. But now we can process as many we can. So that streamlined our business model, and they can get them all in as many they can.
So you're doing mass adjustments,
Mass updates.
You're doing multiple of those in a day, and everything is audited?
Everything is audited. Yep, that's another beautiful capability. Now you can audit all of the updates that users make within commissions or within ALM. Everything is auditable, whether it's reference data, transactions data, or payee data, whatever it is. And then with even what they did, like adding user or removing, all of that can be audited. That's another beautiful from the component from the compliance perspective.
Compliance standpoint, excellent. So switch back to banking. Melanie, coming back to you. You said you're paying different incentives, different kinds of, you have annual pay that you mentioned, Jan. You have different frequencies that you're working with. So how does all this correlate, right? Because you have a single system, single environment that you're actually running through, but all these different frequencies of payouts with, reconciliations and all that stuff. So can you walk us through some of these processes and, how is the solution actually speeding up the process for you?
Sure. Well, Jen and I had to talk about that question at first when we were going to ask it, because we thought, well, how does that? But the point was that it's almost kind of a non-event if someone pays at different frequencies, because it makes it so simple, right? So whereas before we had a lot of manual processes, we had a lot of homegrown things that were heavily coded and hard to keep track of. All of that just kind of levels out, and we're able to, we don't think twice about running a true commission plan that creates a payment that we have to pay right away and then turn around and run, a scorecard for a plan that might pay at the end of the year, but we're going to progressively track that. Those things happen side by side all day long, and we don't really think about it just because you set it up, you run it, it works.
Perfect answer. It works. So the longest payout cycle is a year. What's your shortest?
A month.
A month. And Raju?
Weekly.
Weekly. Okay. So we are hearing about frequencies all over the place. Is there a desire or a want to actually make it shorter? Are you seeing that from the field? Are you hearing that from your customers? Just curious.
For us, it probably is all about the business.
Okay.
Right, the business drives that. Obviously mortgage, monthly, those MLOs live off commissions, right? So they want to be paid monthly. If you think about our corporate space, those transactions take months and sometimes years to develop. Very much more a long transaction cycle, so they like the annual payout. So I would tell you from our perspective, it's really business driven as far as the pay structure and what the strategy of that business is.
Got it.
And we can accommodate all.
Your thought?
It's right now we have no plans to change.
No plans to change. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah,
By the way, these are all curveballs. Yeah, they're not expecting these questions, as you can tell me. So, okay, so I'll go one at a time. One feature that you really like about the product, you can add more if you want to, and one you really would like to change.
Okay. One that I do really like is our utilization of the workflow piece, which we've been able to build out for all of our discretionary payments. So that was done historically on a huge amount of spreadsheets and emails back and forth in terms of allocating those discretionary payments. That's all done within the system, and it talks and feeds back into commission. So that's been a huge gain for us. For the piece that I probably don't like as much would be the access to our production databases, which we access through Webby reports and things like that, but caveat on the fact that we are on the old Oracle and there is a new HANA that we have not migrated to, and that has different capabilities, so I can't speak to that.
That's okay. Jan?
Favorite, flexibility.
Okay.
The fact that it really doesn't matter what the business brings to us as far as the plan. I feel like the system can handle it, and we've proven that. The one thing that I would change probably is around reporting. There's not, as Melanie mentioned, we're still on the Oracle-based solution, and so we're very, very heavy users of Webby reporting, knowing that with HANA, that will go away. But that's probably the one thing I would change is more reporting options.
More reporting option. Fair enough.
What I like, or what the business likes is with SPM cloud migration, out of the box proxy capability.
Okay.
They love it because they are able to experience, our internal admin users can experience the same experience as our end users. So which helps triage calls, get to the problem resolution quickly, and then as well as being on the cloud now, with the frequent updates and patches, which stays, keeps us up to date, helps with security, stability, all of that, and then as well as automated workflows, like I said, those are the good things from the business enhancements. And then from the infrastructure enhancements perspective, there's quite a few to list, like automated batch workflow. So batch flow, since going to cloud, our batch runtime has been cut down by like close to 65–70%.
Wow.
So that's a huge, from 7 to 8 hours, like a couple hours now. And then what I would change probably with our implementation is like how we build, or what I would like differently is the automation of data, like archival of data, and then reports based on predefined customer-driven criteria, whether all or none or some. That's one. If I would add one more to the list, maybe ALM to commission sync errors for ease of servicing.
Okay.
Out of the box.
Fair enough. All good ones. I'll take them back to the product. So the one follow-up question, if you had a time machine, right, and you could go back in time and do this whole thing all over again, I think it was asked in the previous session as well, what would you do differently? And, what are some of those lessons learned that you want to share with the
What would we do differently? Well, it's probably important to know that when we originally purchased what was Calidus, licensed that, we were also changing HR systems. So we were changing to Workday. So at the same time, and Melanie and I were sitting like in the business at this point, so we weren't part of what was this initial installation, but they were trying to install and stand up the Calidus product at the same time that the Workday install was going on. Bad decision. Really bad decision. And they also were trying to do it big bang. So buying, 22,000 licenses and trying to get everything onboarded at the same time. So they realized that's not going to work. We had some change in personnel, then the system was kind of given to me, and then I enlisted Melanie's help to let's get this thing stood up, right? And so what we did is we, came back to you guys and said, okay, we want to do a timeout, right? We want to stop. We want to start over in trying to get this thing stood up. We enlisted the help of the professional services team, and I would tell you that is the best thing I think that we could have done, because they were trying to do it on their own before. We didn't use professional services for a long time, but what I loved about using them is they challenged us, right? Because I think what was trying to be done before that didn't work is they were just trying to copy a system that was in place and then make it fit within the solution. And the professional services team challenged us to say, no. Let's look at your plans. Let's see what makes sense. Let's see what the business is trying to accomplish, and then see how we can run that within the system. And so we looked for consistency. We looked for easy wins. We really pushed back sometimes on the businesses to make a plan change when it didn't make sense and it could be done more effectively. So I would say using the professional services team was a huge help. We had them as part of the team with the first instant onboarding. And from that time on, every business that we've onboarded, we've done it ourselves because we worked with them and they really showed the team how to do it, and we've done it from then on ourselves. Yep. Yeah, absolutely, that would be. If I could go back and change anything.
So don't do HR and
don't do two systems at the
same time. Okay, got it. Raju, you moved from on-prem, so you have a couple of different lessons learned in that process, right? So moving from an on-prem environment to cloud, and at the same time implementing, a net new cloud-based system. So what would be your lessons learned, and what would you do differently?
Let me talk about what we must do to get it right, and then get to that. Right?
Okay.
So one is communication, having clear communication path with all your identifying all the stakeholders. And then one of the things we forget is like when you have, I think in the previous, like one of the sessions that I attended in the morning, they talked about how much data to bring in from your legacy or from your existing platform to the new solution. And last but not least is like having that dialogue, like having your right partners identified, implementation partner, and all of them involved right from the beginning. And that question was asked in the previous session as well. So if you have all of these ingredients identified up front, and then go in with it, like there's very minimal chance to go south, I guess, with the project. With our implementation, it's a very successful partnership and collaboration between SAP and Accenture, who's our implementation partner. What I would do differently if I were to start over from the beginning is maybe reduce the transaction to credit ratio and number of measurement and incentive rules, which helps save batch runtime as well as storage. So that's one thing I would change it.
Got it. So you don't want to have that big an explosion of data that you currently have, but you have to keep doing it because once you've done it in a certain way, that's what the business expects.
It's a big undertaking because we have to rewrite all of the rules and plans, so which we didn't want to embark during the cloud migration, keep it similar to what we have on-prem. Maybe that's something to do in future.
Got it. forward-looking question, Melanie. You know, you have a crystal ball and you can look at your commission system 3 years from now. What would you want it to look like, and what capabilities would you want from the solution?
I think we look every year in terms of, and we talk to y'all a lot about it, in terms of what are we not using.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. You know, the example, there was one thing we thought, oh, this piece isn't working for us, and y'all got us on a call with someone, and they were like, oh, we actually just did an update, and if you go here, here, and here, it does what you say, and we didn't know that ourselves. So those things are helpful. We like to find ways to utilize all the aspects. So we deliver plan documents to people. We deliver any kind of document about their incentive that they have. It creates a repository for them. They get reporting, obviously, scorecard, commission statements, things like that. We do workflows. Once you get a payment, we do payment approvals. That kind of helps keeps our governance piece in check. And then we do discretionary payment workflows where we allocate money discretionarily to hundreds of or 1,000 plus people. So we do all those things, and we try to constantly make them better. We're also centralizing, so anytime we have new acquisitions to the bank, new groups, new plans, we're putting those on, and obviously we're looking to simplify those type things. Similar to what you say, rules, you know, make sure that you do it in an efficient way. And so I would say we've come a long way. We've had several iterations of some of our workflow builds and things like that. Some of our reporting, I think we've talked about streamlining those things and finding ways we can make kind of efficiencies and upgrades and not just, you know, floating with what we have. And so I think that's probably what we'll be.
Yeah. So as a vendor, I'll give one data point in here, which is probably not mentioned. A lot of credit goes to both your organizations for actually coming to the table with an open mindset of saying that we may not know what we know, and we don't want to put the old wine into a new bottle. So that does make a huge difference when you're trying to implement a net new solution. So, I mean, in my mind, that's been very evident since I've interacted with you from day one, is that willingness to, you know, look at the problem in a different, you know, from a different vantage point or a different light, just so that we can solve it better. So thank you for that. We have a few minutes left. If there are any questions for the panel, we'll be happy to take it.
Any final questions for the panel? I do have a quick question, and I wouldn't expect you to know the answer, but I probably think you do have an answer. One of the things that we realize, and I experienced myself personally, is if you got a bad commission system, you probably are having a bad employee experience. You get a good commission system, you're probably getting a good employee experience. So I'd imagine you, probably the bank more than Equitable if you're working with brokers, but do you measure the employee experience, and did you see an uptick after implementing this?
You know, ours are coming from such disparate systems. We haven't measured it. What I would say is that they love the single place to go, right? That repository Melanie spoke about, so they can see months, or if not years now, right? Depending on when we onboarded them, of commission statements, of scorecard statements. If they have a issue, they know, you know, who to call and what that dispute process looks like, and that their next scorecard will be updated. So we find from a user experience, and Melanie mentioned, we actually distribute all their plans. And so if they want to know, oh, well, what does my plan say about so-and-so? Well, they know where that is. It's where they get their scorecards and everything else, so they can go and access their plan. So it gives them, I think, the probably what they would say is the most beneficial thing is they have that single repository.
Sure. Thank you. Roger, how about with Equitable? Are you measuring any type of experience? Or are you dealing with brokers? Do you deal with captive agents? Or?
It's a good question. We have majority of our retail still on the legacy platform, right? So if the ones who are on SAP Catalyst platform versus the PC platform, that's the big complaint we hear.
Okay.
Whereas the ones who are on GDC platform are getting the pretty reports on the portal.
Yeah.
They can drill down, download to Excel, PDF, whatever they like it to. But on the other side, they cannot. So that's something we are looking into.
Yeah, so almost an informal analysis is that the answer is yes. You know, if you take advantage of this, there's a definite uptick. It would only help your NPS too. So any final questions for these nice people? Well, hey, I can't thank the panel enough, and I can't thank all three of you for being great clients of ours, and my dear friend too for hosting. So thank you very much.
Thank you.